Hi everybody, John Cunningham-Ryan here, Senior Library Assistant with the Wexford Library Services, and I'm here today to give you another book review. And I am delighted to say that this book here, We Are the Ants, by Shaun David Hutchinson, is by far the best book I have read this year. But before I get into the book, I just want to read a quote, and I suppose a little bit of a trigger warning here. One of the main stories in this book is how a young person is dealing with how their best friend had depression and took their own life. So the quote is, "He didn't kill himself because of a single overwhelming problem. He died from 1,000 tiny wounds." So to get into the plot of We Are the Ants, we have the main character, Henry Denton, in the book. So at the start of the book, we learn that Henry has been abducted and taken to a ship by aliens, and through several visits he learns that the Earth has 144 days to survive. The Earth is going to be destroyed, and Henry is given the task to save humanity. There's a button in the spaceship that he can press and it will stop the world being destroyed. So throughout the whole book, Henry is having a dreadful time, his last 144 days on Earth basically. And for most of it, with the really bad stuff that's happening to Henry, kind of every time something happens and his situation escalates, he's like, well, I'm definitely not going to hit the button. There is nothing for me to hit the button for. So throughout the story, Henry has a lot of adversity in his life. He's dealing with the loss of his boyfriend Jesse, who suffered from depression and took his own life. He's dealing with losing one of his best friends. It was a best friend in common between himself and Jesse. He hasn't spoken to her for a year. His family is a mess. His mother is a mess. His grandmother is suffering very badly from Alzheimer's. His older brother is a complete asshole, college dropout. Brother's girlfriend is pregnant. During that, Henry also has a very destructive relationship with with a jock from his school, and the jock he's a complete ass. In public, he's bullying Henry all the time. He actually, I think, himself is suffering from internalized homophobia, but that certainly doesn't absolve him of the way he treats Henry. Near the end of the book, there is also an attempted rape, which is obviously not for the faint-hearted, and there's a really bad scene of Henry getting tied up and beaten and bullied. So yeah, Henry's life is not going well. Although during that he does meet a new boy comes into the class, and his class is called, or into the school, called Diego Vega. Now Diego has a somewhat spotty history as well, but they start developing a really good relationship. So that is the only one kind of positive thing in Henry's life. And that is the only one reason that he might actually hit the button and save Earth. However, Diego actually believes Henry when Henry has told his story to many people that he's been abducted by an alien, and of course they don't believe him. But actually Diego does believe him. And when Henry shares the question and dilemma with Diego, Diego tells Henry, "I don't want you to save the Earth for me, I want you to save it for yourself." So a really poignant question there, you know. So really, I absolutely love this book. The way the story is told, the way the different plots are intertwined. It's an absolutely beautiful book, and it's actually not a small book. It's, let me see, it's about 450 pages long, but it just reads really easily. When you hear about people like staying up all night to read a book, that's what I did with this book. I loved this book. The only negatives or cons as such that I would see about this book, for some people, not myself actually, is that the content is rather mature. Yes, it is a book that's aimed at young adults, but the content is mature content. We're talking about, I suppose, things that are trigger warnings. We have depression, we have a young person taking their own life, We have got abuse, we have bullying, we've got a very rough incidents of Henry being tied up and beaten very badly, of an attempted rape. So the content, the language is very mature, so some readers may not be ready for that. If you are a parent at all of teenagers, I would advise you to read this book. It will give you a small insight into the lives of teenagers. If you are a parent of an LGBT teenager, most definitely read it. I think again would give you some great insight. If you're a parent that you just like to keep an eye on the books that your kids are reading, don't just flick through this. Actually give yourself a couple of days to read, because I think as a parent to read this book might actually be a little bit upsetting, but I think would be absolutely fantastic. So really, that's it. I think I've more or less covered the plot, the summary, how much I love this book, the negatives that some people may find, but I don't. But however, before I get to my final verdict, I'd just like to read a quote, because how the author deals with the part of the story where Henry is losing his grandmother due to Alzheimer's. I think this is a beautiful quote here. "I can't help thinking that if we live long enough, we'll all eventually forget the lives we've lived. The faces of people closest to us, the memories we swore we'd hold on to for the rest of our lives, first kisses and last kisses, and all the passion between the years. We have to watch Nana's life slipping away from her like a forgotten word. I thought I understood what's happening to her, but this isn't like being robbed a penny at a time. Memories aren't currency to spend, they're us. Age isn't stealing from my grandmother, it's slowly unwinding her." And it's such a poignant part of the story. We have Henry dealing with the loss of two really important people in his life. We have Henry dealing with the loss of his boyfriend, and we have Henry dealing with the loss of his grandmother. And while the loss of his boyfriend was sudden, the loss of his grandmother is slow, and he can see it happening in front of him, and both are extremely painful. So, to move away from that negative thought, as I say, I love this book. I recommend everybody to read it, and I have no problem at all giving this book a 10 out of 10. Thank you very much for listening to me and indulging me. Please comment below if you like my video or if you've read the book. Thank you very much.